Days?
You're on.
Days, because I know she does a
Hey,
lot
this is
of
Mike
other
Swanson.
things
I'm in
behind the
Asheville,
scenes.
North
Yeah, she
Carolina,
does.
and I come down here to do some business
Totally
and hang
cool
out and
person,
stuff.
man.
And
I love
I decided
dude. Yeah, me
to
too.
stop by
Taekwondo, and I was
this
like, man, this gets better
area
and
next to
better.
City
Yeah.
Hall where they're doing this Occupy Wall Street.
Such a true person.
And I don't really know nothing. You know, I don't know nothing about it, and it's all in the news and stuff. And you know, you hear what the media says about what these people are doing, and I just figured I'd find out for myself and come down here, see what's going on, and just talk to people and find out what they believe and you know what they're trying to do. And talk to this little dog here. I don't know what you think, but I ain't kissing.
He's the leader.
So,
I think there
anyway.
is definitely the vagueness of you know, a lot of people. A big part of, I think, Occupy throughout the nation has been unprecedented and almost untraditional in a sense of tactic of protest, but it's actually got some roots. You know, if you ever thought like the bonus army, you mentioned
Yeah, sure.
you were a student of history. I was just reading a book about that, you know, and how like based on that, like Martin Luther King, right before he left us, was that his big thing was the Poor People's March and encampment on Washington. You know, and
That's
really,
what he was planning before he got
yeah,
shot.
yeah, and that's where it was getting a little more into like thinking about other economic means and stuff. You know, that's where they really started pegging him as a communist and so forth. You know, but speaking about poor people can quite often get you that label. You know what I mean? Sometimes I think that, you know, all the, you know, basically any history of what happened with Occupy Wall Street.
I don't really. I just
there's-
see what's the headlines. You know?
There's Adbusters is a collective, more or less, and you know, they put out a magazine. They're the ones that really called for the occupation, and they put it off as far as like February, and then it didn't quite work, and then it didn't quite work, and then somehow it worked. I guess September, you know, October, where enough people showed up, and they were able to, you know, grab Zuccotti Park and the financial district, and pretty much occupy it. And I guess that just means grab public space, you know. So I think, well, there was a lot of things involved, like this here is a portion of our public land that we've been able to use legally. And the idea would more or less be, even peacefully, we're trying to cause some interruption. Like, you can't go inside a city hall and outside of it without at least seeing us. You know what I mean?
So the idea is kind of get the message out in different ways.
In front, you know, so people can walk up and be like, hey, what's going on here?
Yeah.
You know, and that being said, you know, we've had more or less up and down success on our information table. You really have to have it combined, I think, to be successful with more picketing and so forth, you know what I mean? So this itself should really be a base to get things together. And we've had a few throughout Asheville, some marches, basically, some picketing in front of banks.
Well, is the way it's working, like people just, they come down here, they join it, and does everyone kind of like, how coordinated is like the message? Like, is there one united message, or is it like people are representing different ideas and
well,
stuff?
apparently there's just a slew of different ideals, you know. Everything started basically, and the main thing is it kind of gets into pretty much corporate greed. You know, mega corporations basically was the original ideal. Mega banks, you know, the bailouts and all this, like saying that, you know, these people are amassing phenomenal amounts of wealth. You know, I think, I just read like, you know, 400 richest Americans possess more wealth than 155 million at the bottom combined. You know what I mean? And so it's this big, like, out of spin capitalist thing from the deregulation of the banks since like the Reagan era. You know, because things were regulated after the last depression. You know what I mean? And I think a lot's been blamed on the deregulation and allowing them banks to invest in more high-risk type things instead of just like traditional banking maneuvers. And that's apparently been blamed for causing this reception we're in, you know, and the big housing crunch and everything. A lot of foreclosures, you know, which I believe works either side, but people were kind of got in over their heads, you know.
Well, no, I think that's what gets me is I believe that's the cause of it.
Yeah.
They let the banks get out of control. They're going on like 30-to-1 leverage and just going nuts and fueling that speculative housing bowl, and then it pops and all this kind of,
Yeah, like.
But the thing that gets me is all the politicians running for both parties, they ain't doing nothing about it.
Well, see, that's where it comes into.
You know?
And I think that's the big thing. Not only that these corporations are doing it, but being that they were, by the Supreme Court, determined that they are a person and that their money equals free speech. So there's really no stopping this private citizen, otherwise known as a corporation, from funneling as much money as they want into these political things. So basically it's the corporate control of the political apparatus. And that's what the whole claim is being, well, there's no democracy then. You know what I mean? Because the money talks. If you're able to like disproportionately pay for what you want, you're going to get what you want without some type of cap on that, some type of regulation that, from my understanding, is pretty much wide open right now.
Well, that really bothers, the money stuff really bothers me in one way. I see it being different.
Right.
In that, there's always been money in politics,
Always, man.
But
Always.
the thing about it, though,
all the way back.
Oh yeah, it always will be. But the way it is now, historically, like if you take like Roosevelt for example, he was. What I'm trying to get at is historically what happened is you
FDR.
get different kinds of money interests. Let's put it that way. Will back different candidates. Like when FDR got in office, Rockefeller was giving him a lot of money, and different industrial dudes. He was backed by business people, even though people say he was anti-business. He was still backed by business people, but he actually turned against the Wall Street banks that kind of caused the depression.
Yeah.
When he became president, he kicked off. J.P. Morgan was basically running the Fed. He kicked them off the Fed anyway. But what bothers me now, like if you look at Bush, oil companies were backing Bush, right? And different people were backing Gore,
Right.
But what gets me now is the last election, the Wall Street banks really backed Obama, okay? And now you go look, there's a website.
And he went ahead and pushed the bailout through.
He helped them out.
Chance there to be like.
But what gets me is like right now, the Republican race, the Wall Street banks are backing Romney.
Backing who?
Romney.
Oh yeah.
They're giving him so much money. I was looking at it, and they ain't giving any of the other candidates much money. They're giving all this money to Romney. So here you got Obama that's president with their help, and now if Romney gets this nomination, they got him. They got.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm saying is like money is always there, but now it's the same money on both guys.
Both guys.
I mean, so what do we do?
Like betting to win both horses.
Yeah. What the hell? What are we supposed to do about that?
Basically, we'll be crushed without it. I mean, literally, I think a whole lot of this is saying that's why it's so hard with the vagueness of demands. People are like, well, yeah, we want regulation of that, but in the same sense, there's just a slew of not just grievances that were written down, and it has a lot to do with it. Student loans, corporate control of the food supply, corporate money in politics, this whole general thing, man, to where I think it made it so vague without a central demand that a lot of people don't know how to deal with that. But a lot of people also have said, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of keeping you from being co-opted.
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
that's true.
Even here in our little encampment here, it's come down to First Amendment issues, citywide curfew ordinances, these type of little things that now are issues, because if we want to say this is a practical form of protest and demonstration, whether they agree with it or not, that's what we say it is, and that's what we're doing.
Well, does that mean this is becoming... at first all the attention was on New York.
Yeah.
Is this now becoming like a more not necessarily like a national? I don't know how.
Yeah.
If there's leaders, I don't know if there's leaders or what. But
not at this point.
Is this like more like a local movement? Like each Occupy thing has its own local character.
Yeah,
it's not like a.
Yeah, they're definitely autonomous. I mean, there's thoughts of even thousands of organizations, but definitely hundreds of even encampments, and then that's kind of ran its course, and people are talking about doing other things now, but all of them are centralized around the same OWS structure of a General Assembly that's trying to, you know, when something needs to be decided, everyone gets together and the decision would be a horizontal consensus, so no hierarchical leadership, you know. And these are really, I believe, anarchist concepts, really, of direct democracy, you know, that's being used to decide things, but yet, although there's a national call for like some type of centralization of our issues, you know, there's still complete autonomy. Like Occupy Asheville is Occupy Asheville. What they decide in their General Assembly, in their coordinating council, really don't have nothing to do with what the rest of everybody, you know, decides. They don't have a vote in it. It's the local autonomy, and that's happening throughout the place, even getting into like neighborhood meetings, neighborhood groups. That's the ideal, is that it's an open-ended thing, you know. That's where different tactics, like people are talking about concentrating, already have on you know, helping out foreclosed homes that are about to be foreclosed. Is there a way to occupy them and renegotiate with the banks, actually keep families in the house, you know, and trying to do these like almost PR things, but actually real stuff. And then you just got so much, you know, like you want to go to DC for the, you know, Occupy Congress when they return, doing some marches. Same time, you got, you know, NATO and the G8 appearing in Chicago soon, you know, this spring. That's going to, I think, be a huge convergence of all different types of activism. Like maybe even on scale of the Seattle WTO thing or something, you know. I think in general it's just like this is happening because this is just a time when things are happening. The election alone in 2012 is a pretty interesting one. You know, I think it's going to be involved, but like we pretty much all agree that we got to remain non-co-opted from any parties, even cool third parties like the Green Party or the Libertarian, or you know, a lot of unions have gotten involved, but you know that's it's almost a deal with the devil at some point. You know, like these porta-johns are more or less going to be. We put up the money, but the unions have agreed to reimburse us for doing that, a little part to help, because, you know, up around the ports of Portland, Oakland, the general strikes and all were involved a lot with the local unions, you know, so I don't know where it's going, but basically that whole 99% versus 1, it's a metaphor, more or less. I don't know how mathematically correct it is, but it's a metaphor, you know what I mean, that 99% of us basically are disenfranchised, even politically, with our voice, and 1% is calling all the shots, which is getting top heavy. And you know, I don't really know. I mean, in some ways, everybody, you know, some guy might be for more regulations, some guy might be for simply doing local by local type things and stuff, you know. And I think a lot of us trying to make structures where this thing that apparently is not sustainable, for lack of a better word, looks like it's going to collapse. What are we going to have in place of that? You know, it's not working. You know, this is supposed recession, you know, could even be a robbery, more or less, you know, and it's just, I don't know. I think the tactics can get worn out. Like, we're just stumbling over these First Amendment issues and local type things, and then it gets into homelessness and houselessness and all kinds of different local issues that haven't been looked at, that Occupy's gotten blamed for a lot. Like, oh, there's a bunch of homeless people and they're all drinking and crazy shit's happening up in the camps and everything. I mean, that happens anyway all over town every night. It's just right now it's in the public square, you know?
That's true.
And it's kind of one way of bringing attention to it. But not to reverse the questions, but like, what do you think from what you've seen? Your honest opinion, do you see anything coming of it all? Or is it just a little hard to get your mind around? Because, I mean, even me involved, it's like sometimes I'm like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, the way I see it, the country's screwed, you know?
At the moment.
And, well, I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon.
Right.
And, I mean, where I live at, a lot of my friends lost their jobs, they're unemployed, and, you know, and people just barely getting by. And then if you are working, gas prices going up, middle class is getting squeezed, it's disappearing.
Hard.
And ain't no one doing nothing about it. The politicians are sitting there, they're all bought and paid for.
Like, I think
they don't stand for nothing.
We almost need some pretty radical reforms.
And
one sense or another. Like,
and the way I see it, people got to stand up for themselves. And, you know, that's what y'all are doing.
I think so.
And more people need to do it, and however you want to do it.
Right.
You know, if this is how you do it, that's good.
I think it's a first tactic, you know. I think there's many more we should be limited to. It's almost like dealing with the logistics of an encampment keeps you from being in front of the banks and talking about things, you know. A table like this that more just had stuff about Wells Fargo should be in front of Wells Fargo more often. Handing out flyers and, you know, like I said, it's you want visibility and interruption, you know. Like the fact is you are trying to stop it a little bit, you know.
But I think discontent, or whatever you want to call it, is just going to grow, and people are going to do things in different ways. More people are going to join this. More people are going to get mad in different ways. But I want people to do it, I guess, in a way that, you know, I ain't sure how to put it, but I don't want people being tricked by the media or something to think like, well, I'm gonna go vote for Romney or something. That's and this guy.
That's gonna solve
I don't want people to try to. People have a tendency to want some politician to save them or something.
Yeah, and that's the
and
idea.
And no one's there to do it. You know,
that's
you guys.
Pretty much it. Like we agree with the 99%.
We have the framework
to push your issues through. You know, but it's more than that. If you're actually talking about pretty much. Not perfect, but total social and economic justice to some degree for everybody involved is a little more than just a politician can do. You know what I mean? Like, people are going to have to vote on local levels, national, like actually get serious about it again. And you know how we are about voting in this country. I finally just re-registered. Like, I'm 40. I haven't done that since 18, you know. But I'm willing to. It's just, again,
but I was reading.
No one really represents what we're able to do.
The other day, I was looking at something on the internet, and some film of Malcolm X come up, and he was talking about, you know, it was made right after the Civil Rights March in Washington, 1963, and he was, I don't know if this is true. This is what he was saying, but the guy wanted, you know, he told what he thought was the truth. I don't think he was a liar or something, but he was saying
pretty blind.
Yeah, he was saying that when they had, I'm going to look it up and find out, but he was saying when they had the Civil Rights March on Washington that King didn't plan it, that it was, there's a group called SNCC that they planned it, and some labor organizers planned it, and they were planning on occupying and staying there. And demanding not just civil rights, but more economic stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. A poor people's march.
Yeah, that's what it was going to be like. I didn't know that, and what Malcolm X was saying, was that what happened was some dude, I can't remember his name, but it was some real wealthy person that was for the civil rights movement, but not for that. Basically, gave a bunch of money to all the civil rights organizations and tried to make a central board over it, and then they reorganized that March of Washington and turned it into a simple civil rights march where you have the famous speech.
To remove any type of radicalism.
But then, I did. Yeah, that's what he was doing. And what he did was he split up the money in a way that the NAACP got the bulk of the funds, and then King got money. I mean, they all got money, but he made it so they got the most money, and SNCC got the least amount of money. And of course, they were actually the most radical group, you know.
Kind of disenfranchised the movement.
So that's what happened. So basically, what I'm saying is, that's the most famous in memory now. People got March, and they co-opted it.
Because if you create just these simple, you know, acronyms, organizations with single points, demands and views, it becomes a money aspect. You know, a lot of people are tempted to get on the IRS, not-for-profit thing, you know, but that immediately has a lot of things on your actions. You know, if you're not-for-profit, there's a whole list of things where you can't be on that and still do certain types of actions and shit politically, civil disobedience and these types of things where, you know, I think everyone's agreeing that nonviolence is going to be the only tactic that might succeed, you know, like many movements have used, and proven. It's almost scientific, dude. If you do this, it will happen. But you still have, I think, played up a little bit of, pockets of people coming up, doing some property damage. They're in a overall thing. How you doing, man?